Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Atlantic Council in Washington, D.C. at the end of a great panel discussion on the future of the German Navy. And we have with us the commander of the German Navy, Vice Admiral Andreas Krause. Sir, thanks very much for joining us.
It was a pleasure being here. It was the second time that I have been invited to Atlantic Council to participate in a panel discussion. It was great fun.
I want to start off, indeed it was, and it was a fascinating conversation. And one of the things I want to get your sense on is, the view of the threat in the Baltic or the threat from Russia depends on where you're sitting. So from the standpoint of a German perspective, how is the threat both similar to what it was during the Cold War, but also very different? That's one of the points that you drove home in your remarks to the panel.
Yeah, I think currently there's not a threat in the Baltic. It's a complicated situation. There's challenges in the Baltic, which we are very much used to because, I'm a submariner. I was brought up in the Baltic and I had my operational experience in the Baltic, and times have changed a lot. The Baltic is now, geopolitically, it is a sea that it has many neighboring nations that are either NATO or EU or NATO partner nations. And there is a little part of that is still Russia.
There's a lot of discussion on the A2AD, the anti-access area denial capability that Russia has been fielding. But you made a point that during your career it was the exact same A2AD environment. What's a different way of sort of thinking about this kind of operating environment as it exists today without overreacting to it, as you stressed?
I think A2AD is a serious topic that we have to take into account. I think, on the other hand, we must be careful not to overreacting on that. So NATO, I'm confident, has enough capabilities to deal with that. And if I look back to the times before '89, which is mainly before the unification of Germany, we used to operate in an area where A2AD has been the case for 90% of the Baltic.
As you're looking to this sort of new operating environment, you mentioned, for example, that greater partnership with Sweden and Finland would be something important, that they're both, EU countries that also operate on NATO procedures and NATO standards. What's the kind of cooperative dynamic you think should be in the Baltics, and what are some of the things that Germany, the entire German military, as well as the German Navy are doing to foster that?
I'm talking about the German Navy, and we have invited 2.5 years. We have invited the Baltic Commanders Conference. That is an annual meeting between all the Baltic neighboring navies, Navy chiefs and fleet commanders, including Norway, because we see Norway as being part of this whole operating environment. And the aim of that is to get to a better level, even better level of cooperation. And that, of course, includes Sweden and Finland. They are being dealt with as if they were NATO members as well. And I'm glad that Sweden and Finland also, and the navies especially, also follow fully the NATO procedures and publications. And so there is not at all any challenge to interoperability, to partnership and collaboration in that area.
And they're also part of the family, as you said. They're part of the NATO family. How important is the United States' role, including up in that region, as a NATO member? You made a great comment that without the U.S. there is no NATO. How important is the U.S. contribution in your theater, in your part of the woods?
I think the presence and the participation of U.S. Navy in the Baltic is of utmost importance. The Baltic Sea has to be seen as part of the open oceans, and therefore it's necessary that the U.S. Navy shows up on a regular basis to make this also make that true. With the BALTOPS exercise that is annually taking place in the Baltic, this contribution is very visible. And by the way, the focus of BALTOPS has changed in the last decades dramatically.
What do you attribute the difference in Russian behavior toward, for example, the USS Donald Cook in low-flying incidents and stuff like that? Whereas you said that, or one of your folks talked about the fact that a German ship could be right next to Russians doing torpedo testing and nothing happens to them. What do you account for this sort of difference in Russian behavior toward the U.S. compared with all of the other nations that are in the Baltic?
That might be a kind of muscle play that is being conducted. Those who are in the area operating regularly, they are also perceived as being kind of normal in that area. Whereas, for example, the U.S. Navy, being not regularly there, might face a different behavior from the Russian side. So this could also call for more U.S. presence in the area to be more as a normal partner in that region.
But you don't see any of those kind of incidents directed at the German Navy?
I'm not aware of. So I would not exclude that this happens, because it has happened in the past as well. So what is the important thing is to make have a clear dialogue and clear statements that this behavior could lead to any misperception on a tactical level, and that has to be avoided.
I want to take you to the issue of modernization. Obviously, some on this side of the Atlantic have been a little bit critical about how much Germany is spending on defense. You're focused on a modernization effort, and you even said that the money part of this is different. I want to break this into two pieces, on the acquisition side of things and then also on the soft skill side, which you said is going to be a much bigger challenge. Talk to us a little bit about some of the key modernization programs as you're looking to do almost a generational upgrade to the German Navy.
The German Navy is undergoing currently and is foreseeing a huge modernization upgrade. So I'm proud to say that we are operating the most modern and most capable conventional submarines worldwide. In addition to that, we are about to commission the F-125 frigate, which is a 7,000 tons frigate with a crew of 130. So half the crew of a normal frigate. This ship will be able to operate for more than 2 years away from home, and that demands for a multiple crewing concept. So we will procure 4 platforms and having 8 crews. So this will be the ideal combination between effectiveness, efficiency, and attractiveness to the people. In addition to that, we're gonna procure more submarines on the basis of strategic cooperation with Norway. We're having plans for procuring 6 very capable multiple-role combat ships. We're gonna have 5 more corvettes of the class 130. We'll get new helicopters and so on and so forth.
So generations of Navy chiefs will be thanking you for starting these processes.
Let's wait.
Let me take you to the soft skills part, which you said is a bigger challenge. You mentioned that the soft skills, the people skills, are much more of a challenge. What are some of the specific skill sets that you are concerned and are focusing on to rebuild in the German Navy?
What is of great importance in nowadays is that a Navy is attractive to people who have the choice to either join the Navy or not. So we will have to live in the balance of being attractive to the people and at the same time keeping our professional attitude. And that is something that is very important. Much more importantly nowadays is that we have now ended the down leading slope of reducing the armed force in the German Navy. Now we are on the opposite slope, and that's going up. So what I need now is people who are willing to contribute, who are willing to be different, who are willing to be innovative, and with that also keep the speed that is necessary to continue this process.
But from that speed standpoint, I mean, you mentioned, for instance, first the speed of rebuilding that force because recruiting is difficult, but also speed in driving. You know, you said that was a big focus, obviously, at the Navy League. One of the big focuses for Admiral Richardson is to become innovative more quickly. What are the challenges associated with both recruiting but also innovating more quickly?
It is the full spectrum of that. In the time of 25 plus years of declining, a very strong bureaucracy and administrative procedures have developed. So people have been reluctant to develop ideas. They were always in a position where they had to explain their needs. Now the situation is changing. So now we have to increase. People have to be inventive. They have to be forward-leaning, and at the same time, we have to be faster in our procedures. So that is a challenge because it not only has demands on the people in the Navy. It has demands on industry. It has demands on bureaucracy and all that.
And what about recruitment? Are you getting that human talent that you want, the very best of Germany, to be going into the German Navy?
Currently, we are getting enough people. And that is part of reality. We are lacking some engineers, where we are in a situation where in Germany many civil industry and other companies are looking for the same people as we do. But I'm confident that we are on a good path to be an attractive employer and one of the most attractive employers in Germany, and that will attract people. And with getting more hardware, more ships into the Navy, that will also make make the Navy more attractive and attract people to come and join.
And it also has a great uniform. Let me ask you one last question, which is Cyber Command. Cyber Command was initiated in Germany just yesterday. Tell us how that's going to change the dynamic and how each one of the legacy services are going to be working with this new command.
That is possibly a little bit premature. It is in a stand-up phase now, and we'll have now to find out how we collaborate together with Cyber Command. Undoubtedly, Cyber Command is very necessary in order to have a contribution in this very decisive field. But we are finding out how to do that.
And one last question: in terms of deterrence, are you satisfied that the NATO alliance is sufficient to determine Russia from any aggressive act? Or do you think that more needs to be done on that front?
As long as NATO is continuing to be what it used to be in the past, I'm very confident that NATO will be strong enough to prevent any further aggressions on a larger scale.
Sir, thank you so very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.